Hey everyone, MJS back again. I want to talk a little bit about like small businesses, working for small businesses, what I've kind of had experience, just limited to, really one company, but what I've heard too in general from other people that I've talked to, and the way that they kind of the experiences that they've had, how that kind of differs from working at a larger company, what to expect, and really ultimately what I'm taking from my experiences and how I'm going to implement that in my businesses that I'm going to create, and sort of just like what to do, what not to do, just a couple bullet points. So I would say probably the biggest thing about working for a small business, and the thing that I want to make sure that I do better than what I've been privy to, is just basically like organization and process. Organization and process, so systems and stuff like that. When you're small, it makes a lot of sense that when you're first starting out as a small business, and as you grow, you want to grow fast, right? Because you're small, obviously, and you see all these bigger companies, and whatever industry you're in, you want to compete with the big guys. I don't really agree with that. I think you need to be a little bit more logical and a little bit more realistic. I kind of feel like you shouldn't just shoot up like out of the gate, like, oh, we're just gonna start competing with these huge companies that we have no business competing with, because you're gonna put a lot of strain on the business and the company as a whole, specifically the employees, and it's just gonna honestly really wear people down, because there's no rhyme or reason or process for anything that you do. So one of the big things that I've started to do, and I've put a big emphasis on, is establishing those processes and having like a structure to all the things that I do. So it just takes the guesswork out of it. So when you're a business owner, okay, I'm not technically a business owner yet, right? Like I don't have a ton of clients or anything like that, but I understand the stuff at a high level, right? So I understand as a business owner, you have a ton of things to worry about, right? That's not what I'm not saying that like, oh, you don't have a lot of things to worry about, it's easy. But what I am saying is that you have a lot of people that rely on you too. And you have a lot of people that ask you questions, right? Because you're the point of power, or the person that they would need to go to. So let's take a step back. As a business owner, you're going to get a lot of questions, because it's your thing and people want to know how you want it done and all that, and what they should do and all that sort of stuff. So why, when you're starting this, why would you not put together some processes and some systems to totally like alleviate? You're never going to alleviate all the questions, right? I mean, I'm not saying you're going to answer every question, but why wouldn't you put together something as you go to alleviate some of those questions down the road and take out some of the guesswork? It's completely understandable that you're going to have less time when your business gets bigger. You're going to have more meetings. You're going to do more prospecting. I mean, whatever it is, right? Take some time in the beginning to put together some stuff the way you want things done. If you want to micromanage stuff, like, do it early, so you can like know, so you ultimately give your employees and the people below you an idea of what you're expecting from them. Because honestly, that is where most of the problems that I've seen come from. Lack of communication, lack of communicating expectations. And then it's like, well, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. And then they're like, well, you're supposed to do this. Well, you never told me to do that. It's really that simple. I mean, whether or not as an employee, if you agree with it or not, you're kind of expected to do your job. So if you're not told what to do, and you're not like outlined what to do, like how to do it, and then it creates problems because the business owner doesn't tell you what to do, and you don't know what to do, so it's just this constant, it's this constant whirlwind of stuff. So that's what I'm saying, and that's what I'm going to be implementing moving forward, because I understand what you need to do in that situation, and how it ultimately is going to affect the people below and stuff like that. So that's one big one, which is just, again, organization, process, communication, stuff like that. I don't know, there's definitely more, but that is the biggest one, honestly. Especially as you grow, small businesses are always tougher to work for because there's generally not as many resources, and there's less people and more to get done, most of the time, because of those things. Like, I mean, there's a lot of things that you could kind of automate if you just put some time on the front end into doing, into setting up, into the setup process, so you didn't have to actually do that all the time. That's one thing. I mean, this is kind of off topic, but still slightly the same. It's amazing how many people either don't understand or don't value like the automation of things. What I mean by that is just like building something so that, and it's just another system. It's like why would I do something? Okay, let's say I go into work every day and I do like the same thing for 5 minutes. Like, it's every single day I have to do something for 5 minutes. But if I spent maybe an hour one day and I never had to do those 5 things, that 5 minute task ever again, saved a lot of time. It saved a lot of time. It literally pays for itself in 12 days. So I just don't get it. Like, there's so many things like that where there's just a lot of times where, and again, I'm not picking on small business. I'm not picking on the specific business that I'm at right now. It's none of that. I'm just saying, like, this is honestly even like a life goal. Like, everything even though it's a business, businesses are effectively just almost like, in a lot of senses, like people. Like, the way that you handle your finances, the way that you just run it in general. I mean, I have systems in my life too. It's the same thing. So all I'm saying is, if you can kind of save that time moving forward, understand, communicate the expectations, and then obviously execute on those expectations, it's going to be a great time. The only other thing that I would say, especially in small businesses that want to become larger, is if you haven't done this, like if you didn't do this on the front end and you're not willing to take your foot off the gas a little bit to kind of restructure and rebuild that, you are never going to succeed. I'm 100% a believer of that, because it's just going to prolong, because you're going to continue to get bigger and bigger, like slowly and wildly, and then at some point it's going to be like, well, we don't have anything to, we don't really have anything to kind of fall back on as far as processes and everything. So we're going to have effectively we're going to be 10 times the size one day and operating just as out of control. So I don't understand why people don't think about this, at least from, my experience and the way that I see a lot of things operate. But it's always me. Like, yeah, I love progress. I'm fueled by progress, but at the same time, you got to be smart about it. You can't rely on emotion. Honestly, as well, I would never root a business in sales. I would never do that. Again, just as the way that I would say, like, you gotta have, if you're gonna do that, you gotta have at least 2 core people. I say 2 core people because generally it's, either a partnership or whatever, but you gotta have, sales is extremely important. I'm not undermining sales. However, when you have a sales attitude, you kind of tend to seem like anything is possible, which it is, but within reason. And it's like, you gotta be rooted in a foundation. And sales by nature there's no foundation. It's just, it goes with the flow. So if you're not rooted in proper like forms of finance and logical thinking as far as how to grow this at a steady and but yet manageable rate, with processes and more of almost like an engineering mindset, you're done. You're honestly done before you start. It's not going to last. You need to build a business to last. That should be the goal, is build a business to last. Like, don't build, like, even if you don't make a lot of money, like, why is money the sole driving factor in so many things? Money is extremely important. I love money. I love to spend money. But at the same time, though, it's a terrible reason to go into business, is just money, right? I just want a lot of money, so I'm just going to sell anybody on anything. That's terrible. Why are you doing that? So, I mean, I don't know. This has turned into a slight rant. I understand that. But it's all points that I think make a lot of sense, and I would love to debate with anybody, or love to hear your different side of it, because I'm just one opinion. But, I mean, I don't know what to say. It's very it's tough to see those types of things, and have like almost the ability to change, but not sort of the whether it's resources or whatever. I know a lot of small businesses are like that, so those are just my 2 cents on that. I've never worked for a large company. Maybe someday, I don't know. I'm sure it will be a lot different. There's pros and cons there as well. I'll comment on those as I get more experience. But again, just my